I will go through type checking with prototype section from the React documentation, the advanced guide from React step by step. I'll go through line by line. I think it starts out by saying that React prototypes is deprecated, and they request you to use PropTypes. And in the sample code here, if you see, we are importing PropTypes from the library called PropTypes. So it looks like instead of getting it from React.PropTypes, we are getting it from the PropTypes library itself. So say as the app grows, we can catch a lot of bugs with type checking. So for some applications, they're saying we could catch them using extensions like Flow or TypeScript to type check the whole application. So even if you don't use them, looks like React has some built-in type checking abilities. So to run type checking on the properties of a component, you can assign the special PropTypes property. So we'll see what that means. So I think basically what they're saying here is if you use the PropTypes property, so you can configure your PropTypes. In this case, instead of if you see, there is a greeting.PropTypes, and inside of that, I have a field called name, and then I have a property called name, and then I'm saying, hey, this property called name is of type PropTypes.string. So looks like this will enforce, this will help us check the type of properties and avoid bugs down the road. We'll see how that is accomplished. I think if you see this simple example, basically the first line we're importing PropTypes, and then we defined a class that extends a React component, and the render method is doing nothing but it's returning the it's returning a h1 with hello comma this.props.name. And if you see, the greeting.PropTypes has fields called name. So we defined PropTypes, a property called PropTypes on greeting with a property called name with PropTypes.string. So basically so instead of just doing this to define a React component, in addition to that, we'll have to add something like this to make sure our properties are type checked properly. So this is the additional code that we added to any React component to make sure our properties are properly type checked. So let's see what else they have to say. So looks like PropTypes exports a range of validators that can be used to make sure the data you receive is valid. So in this example, we are using PropTypes.string. So when an invalid value is provided for a prop, a warning will be shown in the JavaScript console. So for performance reason, PropTypes is only checked in development mode. Okay. So which is what we want. We don't want all this code to slow down the application in production. So it looks like it's only checked in the development mode, which is what we want. So it looks like if I assign prop types a value other than string, then in development mode, it will throw an error. Or a warning will be shown. So it won't throw an error. It looks like a warning will be shown in the JavaScript console. Let's see what else do they have about prop types. So here is an example documenting the different validators provided. So looks like I can say one of my properties is an array by saying PropTypes.array. So looks like Boolean. If it's a Boolean, I do a PropTypes.bool. If it's a function, it's PropTypes.func. And for number, it's .number. For object, it's .object. For string, it's .string. For symbol, it's .symbol. So optional node. Anything can be rendered. Numbers, strings, elements, or an array of fragment containing these types. So anything that can be rendered, numbers, strings, elements, or an array containing these types. Okay. I'll have to understand this better. I don't really understand what this means. A React element. Okay. So if it's a React element, then I use something like this. I wonder what the difference between this optional node and optional object means. Oh, so this one includes, I think, a node includes numbers, strings, elements, or an array containing these types. Okay. So this includes a node includes a number, strings, even elements. So object is obviously, they mean a JSON object. So a React element, optional element, property types dot element. Okay, that's a React element. You can also declare that a prop is an instance of a class. This uses JS's instance of operator. Okay. React element. Okay. So you can also declare that a prop is an instance of a class. Wow. Okay. So looks like you can say this is an instance of a particular class also. You can ensure that your prop is limited to specific values by treating it as an enum. Ah, whoa. So if you specify something like prop types of one of, then it will limit it to one of these values. An object that could be one of many types. Okay. So if you, yeah, so looks like this is an optional union type. If you want to make your property either a string or a number or an instance of a message, we would use syntax like this. Okay, so if you want to make sure that your property is an array of, in this case, numbers only. So basically, an array in JavaScript can have both numbers, strings, and anything, a mixture of any kind of Java basic data type, a JavaScript basic data type. This one is saying that you can always limit it to saying that, hey, I want only this property is an array of only numbers or strings, or maybe I think, yeah. So in this case, only you can say array of either prop types, array of either number, string, or one of those types. So prop types dot object of properties dot number. An object with a property value of a certain type. So I don't know if this means that all the properties have to be numbers. So if you have an object, JSON object, and if you accept only JSON objects where the types of each and every property within the JSON object is a number, then you could do something like this. An object taking on a particular shape. So it looks like the object in this case, a shape is nothing but an object that has two properties in this case, and the property color has to be a string and font size has to be a number. So this will take, if we define a property with this kind of, with prop type of shape, then the property can only be set to an object that has two properties and no more than two properties or no less than two properties. And the property names are color and font size, and the color property has to be a string and font size has to be a number. You can chain any of the above with is required to make sure a warning is shown if the prop isn't provided. Okay. So you can, if you do a dot is required, then it will make sure that that is required. So if it's not sent, then it will throw an error. A value of any data type. Okay. So it can be any data type. So and is required. So you can also specify a custom validator. Okay, so you can make a property and then looks like you can define a function. If you do that, then this is your custom validator. So it should return an error object if the validation fails. Don't console.one or throw, as this won't work inside one-off type. Okay. You can also supply a custom validator to array of and object of. It should return an error object if the validation fails. The validator will be called for each key in the array or object. The first two arguments of the validator are the array or object itself and the current item's key. So if you pass, if you do a validator like this, they're saying that the function will be passed the property value and its key. So basically, it will send the array itself and then the key. And you can see if it passes the test. If it doesn't, then you return an error, is what they're saying. Requiring single child. With prototypes.element, you can specify that only a single child can be passed to a component as children. With prototypes.element, you can specify that only a single child can be passed to a component as children. Okay. So if we do something like this, I think in the prototypes, in the prop types, so it's saying that with prop types element, you can specify that a single child can be passed to a component as children. So we are making sure that it requires at least one children. So this is the my component. It extends a React component. And in the render method, we are returning this div children. This code, basically we are saying, because there is a property called children, and we are saying that so we are saying that it is required. So it has to be passed to that element, otherwise it will not work. So you can assign default values also. So you can define default values for your props by assigning to the special default props property. So if we do something like this and do a default props, so looks like it will get a default property. So this is in addition to the prop types. So we can define prop types where we make sure we define the type of each property, and then if we want to go ahead and default some of the values, then we create another property on the React component itself called default props, and inside of that we can assign default properties to each of the properties. So anyway, prop types is used to define the type of property, and default props is used to assign default values to the properties of the React component. So the default props will be used to ensure this.props.name will have a value if it was not specified by the parent component. The prop types type checking happens after default props are resolved. So type checking will also apply to default props. Okay, good. So that's what I think. To just quickly summarize this, I think we can do type checking using the prop types library. And basically, to assign a type to any property, we use the dot properties object, and inside the dot properties object of the React component, we define each and every property, and then assign it the property type. And then there are a ton of property types, and this section defines each of the property types that are available. And you can also mark a property as required using this dot required notation. You can also define your own custom property type by writing a function like this, a custom validator like that. And you can also create custom validators on array of and object of using code like this. So if you want at least one children to be present inside your component, we can use the properties.element is required to force that this component has at least one child. So you can set the default property values using the React component dot default props object. Inside of that, we define each of the properties of the React component and assign it a default value. And then this default value will be checked against the prop types to make sure the default value adheres to the prop types rule. Otherwise, a warning will be thrown to the console. At a high level, that's all it is to this advanced guide called type checking and prop types. I will go to refs and the DOM in the next section.